able to bridge the distance between us and the other, we must uncover our image in his mind. We take a look at the issues the other finds important and discover the truth as it stands on the other side. We and the other live together in this world, and there is no way to live in perfect harmony without communication. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to We and the Other. Today we have with us Callie Schmitz. Hi Callie, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Could you start off by telling us a little bit about your life before you moved to the UAE?
Yes, of course. I came with my husband 6 years ago, and before we moved to Dubai, we were both, he still is flying, he's flying for Emirates, and I was a cabin crew member for Lufthansa and a small regional airline later on, so I was a cabin crew member for 18 years. And there's hardly any before that because then I visited school, so from school onwards I started flying. And that's why I knew a lot about the UAE before, because I was a frequent guest in this country, being a cabin crew member for Lufthansa for 10 years nearly. So I came here quite frequently.
Okay. So prior to being a cabin crew member and while you were a cabin crew member, did you interact a lot with Arabs and Muslims?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, coming from Germany, of course, there are lots of Muslim people living in Germany. But if you live in your home country and there are different people around you, you interact with them, but you don't really think about the differences from people like race or religion. I started to think about the differences before we made the choice moving here, but not before that. You just interact with people, and as a cabin crew member, you have to interact with people anyway. And if there are Muslims, non-Muslims, Westerners, Europeans, whatever. So you just interact with people and you don't think about it too much. Okay,
so what was your perception of Arabs and Muslims that you had before that you moved permanently to the UAE?
I would say the Muslims I met or I had contact with were probably from Turkey, because a lot of Turkish people live in Germany. But they kind of adapt quite quickly to German people and to German living. Of course, you see people on the street who wear scarves, headscarves, and you have people in school, of course, teenagers who are Muslims. But you don't really feel it, that there's a difference, because you talk to each other, you share your lunch, but you know just the major differences. You just know that they don't like pork, that they don't drink alcohol, and that's probably most of what you know when you live in Germany, for example.
So when you came here, did any perceptions change? Was it difficult for you to sort of mingle with Arabs and Muslims, or what was your experience like?
No, it wasn't difficult, but I think it's a bit, it's not easy to mingle with Arabic people here. I think they just try to, I don't know if they try to avoid foreigners. I don't think so, but there's just no common path you go together. I see a lot of Arabic people in school because our son goes to an international school. Lots of Arabic people have their kids there as well. He is more or less the only Westerner in his class, so there are a lot of Lebanese, Arabic people and Muslim boys in his class as well. But I would say the mothers, when we talk and when we wait in front of the classroom, for example, they are friendly, of course, and we talk with each other, but it doesn't go that next step forward, like, what are you doing tonight, and do you want to come over for a coffee? It's kind of like a little bit of separate. Yes.
So if I were to ask you about your relationships with Arabs and Muslims, you'd say it was a bit limited, more technical than
It is limited, but I think it's not because I don't want and they don't want. It's just because there's hardly a chance to mingle, I would say. Even if we live in an Arabic country, I would say it's kind of, it's difficult because I think, of course I would try to contact women But most of the women, you don't see them in the day, and I think they lead a different life as well, because they probably go out in the night more with their families. They stay up longer in the night. I mean, for example, I don't have a maid, so I have all my household chores. I go shopping in the morning, and I do my ironing, and this and this and this. So my day is completely different, I think, to a life for
so
a typical Arabic woman.
Language maybe and cultural barriers
yes. For me, it's the language barrier as well. That's why I started half a year ago to catch up a little bit of Arabic, which I'm not yet very successful with.
Right.
But
So do you think the environment here kind of changes your personality or the way you interact with other people? The UAE's environment, has that changed you since you've moved here?
I hope not. And I would say as expats, we are lucky enough to be here. We have the chance to have a nice, wonderful life here. But if you don't watch what you're doing, like if you, I don't know, I mean, I just have one boy, so I don't see the need for a maid, for example. But if you see people who have a maid, who have a gardener, you have this and this and this, I think you lose your normal background. My background isn't like that. My background is that I have to work normally. I have to work for my household, to be nice and clean, and I don't want my boy to see somebody else cleaning. I want him to know that he has to clean his room and that there is no maid for him to clean up and everything. So I think if you don't follow your normal background here in Dubai, be high there somewhere and not down to earth.
All right, okay. So on a bit of a different note, why do you think it is so that nowadays human beings seem to be constantly at kind of war with each other? I mean, we are born and brought up not to hate people and fight against people, but it seems like that's all the world is about nowadays. So why do you think that's so?
I don't know. I think it's very hard, I think, because I think in every culture and every nationality there are good people and bad people. And unfortunately, it's always the same group of people who do the bad things and the same people probably who do the good things. There are lots of good politicians around the world, and there are a lot of bad people around the world. And unfortunately, mankind or humankind is just like everybody tends to go for the bad things. And for the bad things in people and the worst things and make them even worse. And to blame, I think a big problem in our society is that you blame the whole nation for something one person did.
Of course, yes.
And that's everywhere. That's everywhere. If you see a Turkey family in Germany and somebody is doing something wrong, it's the whole Turks. It's not just that one people. Than that one person who did the bad thing. And so I think this is a big problem. It's a big problem we have here in Dubai, but I think it's not single Dubai, it's everywhere in the world. And we all have problems with race, I think, and with accepting people how they are, like color-wise, religion-wise, everything. And I think that's a big, big problem. But not here, not just here. I think even here it's easier because people are all expats. Everybody is an expat here, despite of 10% or 50% of locals who live here. But so I think everybody is an expat, and here everybody feels like, okay, you have to watch out because you're a foreigner as well, you're a stranger here as well, and they might not like you here, so behave that they like you. So I think there is a big use here to be nice, nicer than somewhere else.
Okay, so do you think there's sort of a civilization tussle of sorts between the East and the West, so to speak, as that they're just not, they don't seem to be getting along with each other because of how you mentioned they just have general assumptions of what each one is like based on a couple of people and how they've behaved. And how do you think they can change that?
I think you have to be more open, not you.
Okay.
Don't worry. Everybody has to be more open about his own background, to be more, just to be more frank, and don't, I think a lot of people don't take things with humor anymore. People forgot to laugh about